हेलो, गुड इवनिंग बेटा। ठीक है। सो टुडे वी विल स्टार्ट विद द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ चैप्टर 1 एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड एज मैथमेटिकल प्रूफ। ठीक है बेटा। In order to understand mathematical proof, we need to understand what is a theorem. एक theorem किसे बोलते हैं? And in order to go ahead and in order to understand theorem, see what is a mathematical theorem? Anything which can be written in the form of P implies Q. अगर हम ऐसे लिख सकते हैं that P implies Q, then it is called as a mathematical theorem. उसको हम mathematical theorem बोलते हैं. So for example, what is P? P क्या है? Any series of proposition. हमने अभी पढ़ा हुआ है what is a proposition, right? So P is called as a premise. P को बोला जाता है premise, right? It is what we know. So जैसे अगर मैं आपको बोल दूं that M is an even number. M एक even number है. तो ये मैंने आपको बता दिया. This is what I know. तो ये हो गया बेटा P. This is called as P. So P is what we already know. In this case, I have told you that M is an even number. We already know what M is. So that becomes your premise. Now, we are going ahead and we are telling the conclusion. So I am saying कि if n is even number, then 2 times m is also even number. अगर m एक even number है, तो even into even is even. तो अगर हम उसको 2 से भी मल्टीप्लाई कर दें, if we go ahead and if we multiply it with 2, then that will also be an even number. उसको भी even number ही बोला जाएगा. So when we go ahead and when we do something like this, right, one statement implies the other statement, then this kind of thing is called as a theorem. उसी को हम एक theorem बोल देते हैं. That becomes a theorem. ठीक है. Here beta Q is called as conclusion. What are we concluding? We are concluding that 2 times into m is an even number. तो जो हम conclude कर रहे हैं, what we are concluding comes at Q, right? So what we want to know, क्या हम जानना चाहते हैं, that is called as Q, right? That is called as the conclusion. ठीक है बेटा. Let's take an example. देखो, here I am saying if m is even, तो मेरा p क्या है? What is my proposition? That m is even. What is my q? इससे हम किस conclusion पे आ रहे हैं? What are we concluding? 2m minus 1 is odd. So 2 into m minus 7 is odd. Take an example बेटा, कोई एक example ले लो. जैसे अगर हम बोल देते हैं कि m is 5. So 2 into 5 will be 10. 10 minus 7 is 3 and 3 is odd. So it holds true. जब हम m को 7 लेते हैं, when we go ahead and when we take m as 7, when we go ahead and when we take m as 5, then we go ahead and we see that 2 into 5 becomes 10 and 10 minus 7 which is 3 becomes odd. माने अगर m मेरा odd number है, then I am getting the answer as odd. ठीक है. Now beta, let's say I take m as 4. So 2 into 4 will be 8 and 8 minus 7 will be 1. So when I go ahead and when I take m as even, then also I am getting the answer as odd. तभी भी मेरा आंसर odd आ रहा है. This verifies this statement that if I take m as even, then 2 into m will be odd. ठीक है. Can I write a theorem for this one? क्या इसके corresponding हम कोई theorem लिख सकते हैं? Yes, we can write a theorem. What is the theorem we can write बेटा? That if m is odd, अगर m odd भी हो, then also 2 into m minus 7 will be odd. This can also be another theorem. ये भी मेरा एक theorem हो सकता है. अच्छा, why is this happening? क्यों है ये true? देखो ध्यान से. देखो, whenever, ध्यान से सुनना मेरी बात. Whenever we multiply any number with 2, it becomes even. चाहे कोई हम ऑड नंबर लें या इवन नंबर, whether I take an odd number and I multiply it with 2, or I take an even number and I multiply it with 2, जो मेरे को आंसर मिलेगा बेटा, you can verify, you will always get an even number. So whether m is even, चाहे मैं m को एक even नंबर लूं या odd नंबर लूं, जैसे ही मैंने m को 2 से मल्टीप्लाई किया, it will become an even number. And even minus odd, 7 is an odd number beta, even minus odd is always odd. So therefore your answer will always be odd. आपको हमेशा odd ही मिलेगा. This is the proof of this. Whether you take m to be even or odd, आप m को एक even number ले लो या odd number ले लो, whenever you will multiply it with 2, जैसे ही आपने उसको 2 से multiply किया, you will get an even number. You can try. आप m को 1 लेके देख लो, m को 5 लेके देख लो, m को 2 लेके देख लो, m को 4 लेके देख लो. 2 into m will be always even. And even minus odd is always odd. So proof is that the answer will always be odd. आपको हमेशा एक odd answer ही मिलेगा. You will always get an odd answer. Is this clear? ठीक है. Now what we can go ahead and do is, beta, we can see alternative number 2 of theorems. To understand alternative 2, we need to understand this statement. ये क्या बोल रहा है बेटा? This goes ahead and this says P implies and is implied. Implies के लिए हम ये यूज करते हैं, implied के लिए हम ये यूज करते हैं. So when I am clubbing the two things together, I am saying P implies and is implied by Q. P implies and is implied by Q. माने इसका क्या मतलब है कि if P then Q, if Q then P. अगर P है तो Q होगा, अगर Q है तो P होगा. So whenever you see this kind of statements, P implied and is implied by Q, in this you need to prove two things. आपको दो चीजें प्रूफ करनी होगी. क्या प्रूफ करोगे पहले? That if P then Q, if Q then P. So you need to prove both the things. You need to prove कि P की वजह से Q है और Q की वजह से P है. If you prove both these things, then this is the statement. P implies and is implied by Q. That means P if and only if Q. इसको कैसे बोलते हैं? P if and only if Q. ठीक है. अब बेटा, let me give you one example of this thing. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, if m is even, then m plus 2 will be, m plus 3 will be odd. मानते हो? अगर m कोई भी एक इवन नंबर है, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, तो अगर हम उसमें एक ऑड नंबर ऐड करेंगे तो आंसर ऑड आएगा. ठीक है. कैन आई रिवर्स इट? इफ m plus 3 is odd, then m must be even. दोनों ही चीजें सही हैं. देखो ध्यान से, यहां हम क्या बोल रहे हैं कि अगर m इवन है, सपोज m का वैल्यू हम इवन लें, वी टेक m as 4, then m plus 3 will be odd. Check what will be 4 plus 3, it will be 7. So this says if P, what is P? That m is even. Then Q, what is Q? m plus 3 is odd. So P is implying Q. P implies Q. What is P beta? P statement is m is even. Q statement is m plus 3 is odd. ठीक है, नाउ आई एम रिवर्सिंग इट। मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ कि m+3 कोई एक ऑड नंबर है, सो m+3 इज ऑड। ऑड मीन सपोज इट इज 7, तो व्हाट इज m कमिंग आउट टू बी? 7 - 3 माने 4। Suppose m plus 3 is odd number 9. So what will be m? 9 minus 3, that means 6. So if m plus 3 is odd, so you get odd only when you have even plus odd. सिर्फ तब odd आता है बेटा. 3 is odd. So if I want my result to be odd, then it must happen that m must be even. Only even plus odd will give you odd. तो m must be even. तो यहां से हमारे पास क्या आ गया? We are reversing the statement. If m plus 3 is odd, m plus 3 is odd means q. If q, then m must be even, p. So this is the reverse. This is saying q implies p. But this is also true. इसको हमने प्रूव किया that if m plus 3 is odd, then m is even. So q implies p true है, and this is saying p implies q. So we can go ahead. We can combine the two things together. Combining p implies and is implied by q. ठीक है, because we proved कि if statement p then q, if statement q then p. So we have taken both these statements ना, हमने ये दोनों ही statements ली हैं. So if we are taking both these statements, then we can go ahead and we can say that p implies and is implied by q. That is the correct part. Is this clear, beta? Okay. Now what are the type of different proofs that we have? The first kind of proof that we have, beta, that is called as a direct proof. Direct proof में what we go ahead and we do is we say if p then q. So इसमें हम क्या करते हैं ना, अगर हम बोल रहे हैं p implies q, we will assume that p is true and we will prove that q follows. That q follows. जैसे for example, if I tell you if m is odd, 2m is even. तो I am assuming, assume starting करो, assume m is odd. मतलब I will assume that p is true. And I need to prove 2m is even. ये मुझे prove करना है. I need to prove that 2m is even. So beta, if m is odd, ठीक है, then we know any number multiplied by 2 becomes a multiple of 2. अगर हमने उसको 2 से मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया तो वो 2 का मल्टीपल हो जाएगा. एंड एनी मल्टीपल ऑफ 2 इज इवन. कोई भी 2 का मल्टीपल ले लो, इवन होगा. सो व्हेन m is odd, 1 3 5 7 9, when I multiply this with 2, it has become a multiple of 2. So it gives me 2 6 10 14 18, and that will be even. So we started with p. हमने p को assume किया. We started with p as assumption and we proved q. हमने q को prove किया. This is called as the direct method. What is this called? This is called as the direct proof. So direct proof goes ahead and says that you start with p and you prove q. Right, beta? This is called as your direct method. Okay. Now, beta, let us talk about the indirect proof. इनडायरेक्ट प्रूफ क्या बोलता है? सो वी नो इफ p then q. अगर p है तो q होगा. सो इन द इनडायरेक्ट प्रूफ वी प्रूव द रिवर्स. वी से इफ नॉट q, अगर q ही नहीं हो रहा, देन नॉट p. तो p भी नहीं हो सकता. देन p कैन नॉट हैपन. जैसे इफ आई टेल यू दैट इफ समथिंग इज अ स्क्वेयर, अगर कोई एक चीज स्क्वेयर है, then it is definitely rectangle. Why? Because beta, square is any rectangle with equal sides where length and breadth is equal. तो square is what? Square is rectangle but with equal sides. But with equal sides. So when I say that something is square, अगर मैंने बोल ही दिया कि कुछ square है, it means it has length, it has breadth, just that length and breadth are equal to each other. Then it will be a rectangle, ना बेटा? Rectangle तो खुद से ही हो जाएगा. So if something is square, then it is definitely a rectangle. माने if P, then Q. ये तो हो गया direct. But now बेटा in indirect, we are saying if not Q, then not P. अब अगर कोई चीज रेक्टेंगल ही नहीं है, if something is not a rectangle only, right? So if I am telling you that I am making a diagram and it is not rectangle, so if it is not rectangle, तो square कैसे होगा? Not rectangle means it does not have sides. 4, it does not have length and breadth. Maybe it is a triangle, maybe it is a circle, it is not a rectangle. So definitely it cannot be a square also, ना बेटा? क्योंकि square is a special kind of rectangle with length and breadth equal. If something is not rectangle, अगर कोई rectangle ही नहीं है, then it cannot be square. Is this making sense? So we can go ahead and say that if not Q, अगर कोई चीज Q ही नहीं है, then not P, तो वो P हो ही नहीं सकती. So this is an indirect way of proving it. So direct is this: if it is raining, that means if P, then the grass will be wet, then Q. If grass is not wet, मतलब grass is dry, if not Q, then not P. So it cannot rain, because rain hota to grass would have been wet, right? Okay. Now let us try to go ahead and let us try to take this example, mathematical example beta. And in this mathematical example, you actually go ahead and you have this statement. Do you see this? This is your statement P, right? This is called as premise. And I need to prove P implies Q. So I need to prove that X is greater than 0. तो क्या क्वेश्चन में दिया हुआ है? That if P, अगर ये होल्ड करता है true, if this holds true, then Q, then this must hold true, that X must be greater than 0. If this is greater than 0, then X must be greater than 0. Clear हुआ बात को बेटा? This is your statement that you need to prove. तो हम कैसे prove करते हैं बच्चे? How did we learn? What is the direct method? In the direct method, we assume P to be true and we prove Q. हम इसको true assume करेंगे. We will assume this to be true and we will go ahead and we will prove this. Right? So we start with given. So it is given to me that minus x square plus 5x minus 4 is greater than 0. Now, beta, there is a rule that if minus x is greater than 0 and I multiply minus 1 on both sides, so the sign will reverse. So x will be less than 0. Take an example. Suppose मैं बोलूं for example, minus 5 is greater than minus 6. ये true है? If you draw the number line, you will get minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, minus 6. है ना? So as you go towards 0, number increases. तो minus 5 is greater than minus 6. है ना? Now beta, if I multiply with minus 1 on both sides, so the sign will reverse. So I will get 5 is less than 6. So in step 1, because this is given to me, ये मुझे given था, I have multiplied minus 1 on both sides. So minus 1 minus x square plus 5x minus 4, sign will reverse, 0 into minus 1. And जब I will open this up, I will get minus 1 into minus x square minus 1 into 5x minus 1 into minus 4 less than 0. So what will I get, beta? X square minus 5x plus 4 less than 0. Is this clear? Now what you can go ahead and do is you can go ahead and you can take 5x on the other side. तो यहां से ये जो हमारा ये 5x है, this 5x, I am taking this on the other side. तो what will I get, beta? X square plus 4. और ये minus 5x है ना, so I can take this on the other side. So it will become plus 5x. Clear? ठीक है. Now what you can do is, beta, you can take this plus 4 also on the other side. Okay. So you have what, beta? You have x square plus 4 less than 5x. So you can take this on the other side. So x square will be less than 5x minus 4. X square will be less than 5x minus 4. ठीक. अब एक बात बताओ मुझे. We know x square is always greater than equal to 0. आप x का कोई भी वैल्यू डालो. You put a negative value or you put a positive value. When you square a number, जब भी आप किसी नंबर को स्क्वायर करोगे, देखो -1 square is 1, -2 square is 4, 2 square is 4, 0 square is 0. So we know that whenever we will square any number, it will always be greater than equal to 0. माने this x square, it will be greater than equal to 0. It will be greater than equal to 0. So I have got this statement, beta. I have got this statement that x square is greater than equal to 0 less than 5x minus 4. तो इसको अगर हम एक नंबर लाइन पे लिखें तो व्हाट हैव वी गॉट बेटा ऑन द नंबर लाइन कि यहाँ कहीं पे मेरे पास 5x माइनस 4 है, यहाँ x स्क्वायर है और यहाँ 0 है. x स्क्वायर 0 से आगे है और उसके आगे 5x माइनस 4 है. सो इट मीन्स दैट दिस 5x माइनस 4 विल बी ग्रेटर देन 0 डेफिनेटली. तो आई कैन गो अहेड एंड आई कैन से that 5x minus 4 will be greater than equal to 0. X will be greater than equal to 4 by 5. 4 by 5 is 0.8. It means x is greater than equal to 0.8. It means x is always positive. क्योंकि 0.8 तो यहाँ कहीं है and x is more than this. And ये सारे ही positive numbers हैं above 0. So we started with the premise. We started with this. हमने इस चीज को assume किया. We assumed this. This was given to us. Right, beta? And we proved this. We proved that x will be positive. So we start with the premise and we prove the conclusion. Is this clear? यही यहाँ पे है बेटा. So x is strictly positive. ठीक है? ठीक है बेटा. Now let's talk about the indirect proof. So what is indirect proof thing? Indirect proof basically goes ahead and says that if not q is represented like this beta, then not p is represented like this. So if not q, अगर q नहीं है तो p भी नहीं होगा. If not q, then not p. This is what we are going ahead and we are saying in this case. Is this making some sense? If we do this, जब हम ऐसे करते हैं, that is called as an indirect proof. ठीक है? तो suppose we start with this. हमें what we had to prove बेटा? To prove if minus x square plus 5x minus 4 is greater than equal to 0, then x is greater than equal to 0. ये हम x is greater than 0. Here it was greater than greater than. This is what we had to prove. हमें इस proof के साथ start करना था. Right? This is what we had to prove. Right? Now what will be its reverse, beta? Its reverse will be that if not q, to prove that it is not p. Not q means what? Not x greater than 0. So x greater than 0 is not true. That means what? That x is less than equal to 0. So I need to prove that if x is less than equal to 0, then not p. Not p means not minus x square plus 5x minus 4 greater than 0. This is not true. तो अगर इसको हमें not true proof करना है, that means it should be less than equal to 0. So we need to prove that if x is less than equal to 0, मतलब हम इसका opposite ले रहे हैं, not q. If not q, then not p. Not p means opposite of this. That means we are saying that this should be less than equal to 0. Clear? So this is now what I need to go ahead and I need to prove. ये वाला statement is not q and ये वाला statement is not p. Is this clear, beta? ठीक है. Now what we go ahead and we do is, let's start with not q. एक बारी statement को लिखो. So we are going ahead and saying that x is less than equal to 0. So when x is less than equal to 0, can I multiply 5 on both sides? I can. So I have gone ahead and I have multiplied 5 on both sides. So what will I go ahead and what will I get, beta? 5 into x less than equal to 5 into 0, 5x less than equal to 0. Now what I have done is subtracted 4 from both sides. So what will I get, beta? 5x minus 4 less than equal to 0 minus 4. 5x minus 4 less than equal to minus 4. Okay. Now what I am doing, beta? I am subtracting x square from both sides. Okay. So minus x square. I have subtracted x square less than equal to minus 4 minus x square. ठीक है. अब बेटा एक बारी इस टर्म को देखो. If I take minus common, this will be 4 plus x square. X square is always non-negative. 0 होगा या positive होगा. So either it can be 0 or positive. X square will either be 0 or positive. मानते हो? या तो x square 0 हो जाएगा या फिर minus 1 whole square 1 1 whole square 1 2 whole square 2 minus 2 whole square 4 ऐसे. It will be positive always. हाँ तो positive into positive plus 4 माने this term is beta positive. And it is multiplied with a negative sign. So this entire term is always negative. Always negative. Always negative means that this entire term is always less than 0. Always less than 0. हमेशा negative आएगा. कुछ भी लिख के देख लो x की जगह पे. You put x as 0, you put x as 1, you put x as minus 1, x as 4, कुछ भी डालो. You will notice that minus 4 minus x square will always come negative. Negative means it will be less than 0. So now what we have got, beta? We have got something like this. This is 0. This is minus 4 minus x square. And here somewhere I have minus x square plus 5x minus 4. ऐसे आ रहा है. So this term is also less than 0 only, na? It is lying to the left of the number line. ये भी तो 0 से कम है. So what we can go ahead and we can say from here is that this implies minus x square plus 5x minus 4 is less than 0. And this is the statement of what, beta? Not q, not p. यही तो statement था not p का. Isn't it? So this is the statement which reflects not p. Right? So this is what we have done here, which is not p. Right? So we have gone ahead and we have proved that not q implies not p. This is my indirect method. ठीक है बेटा? Now we can go ahead and we can also talk about another method. एक और method है यहीं पे. And that method is called as the method of proof by contradiction. Right? Now, when we talk about proof by contradiction, प्रूफ ऑफ कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन लुक्स समथिंग लाइक दिस. तो हम P को we will assume P to be true. ठीक है, we will start by assuming that P is true and we will show that Q cannot be false. Q is true proof नहीं करना. We need to go ahead and we need to prove that Q cannot be false. Q false नहीं हो सकता. When we go ahead and when we do something like this, then this is called as the method of contradiction. ठीक है, let me just okay, let's start. So I am going to do something like this. I will take that let P be true. हमने start किया कि P true है and I will take that Q is false. And then I will show that this is not possible. ऐसा possible नहीं है. ठीक है. So I am starting that this is true. ये वाला statement true है. Minus x square plus 5x minus 4. This is greater than 0. This is true. And I need to also go ahead and say that this is false. X greater than 0 is false. I am taking this as false. समझे? So let's start. Suppose Q is false. If Q is false, माने X greater than 0 is false. Right? So this means what should be true, beta? X should be less than equal to 0. अगर x less than equal to 0 है, if x is less than equal to 0, तो जो हमने ऊपर steps किए थे, whatever steps we had done earlier, I will multiply 5 on both sides, I will subtract 4 from both sides, I will subtract x square from both sides. So I will get something like this, that minus x square plus 5x minus 4 is less than minus of x square plus 4. Right? And I know that this is negative, this is less than minus 4. हाँ, तो यहां से हमारे पास ये आ जाएगा that minus x square plus 5x minus 4 will come out to be negative. Right? So when I say that Q is false, जब हम ये बता रहे हैं, we are starting by assuming that Q is false, तो we are getting that P is also false, क्योंकि हमने assume तो ये किया था, we had assumed this, but we are getting that P is false. So we have reached a contradiction. We have reached a contradiction, isn't it? So try to understand. हमने यहाँ पे क्या किया? हमने बोला that Q is false. And we started solving this. हमने इसको solve करना start किया. When we started solving that Q is false, तो हमारे पास आ गया that P is false. But we had assumed that P is true. हमने इसको true assume किया था. So proof is saying that P is false. We had assumed P is true. So we have gone ahead and we have reached a contradiction. We have reached a contradiction. So this is the proof by contradiction. What is proof by contradiction? Where you go ahead and you assume that Q is false. You start solving it and then you get P is false. पर आपने assume किया होता है कि P true है. So it becomes a contradiction. So you have all three methods. What is the first method saying? Beta, dobara, let's revise it. The first method was direct method. Direct method was going ahead and saying that if P then Q. So you start with P is true. ये आप assume करते हो. And you prove that Q is true. That's the direct method. The second method we did, beta, that is called as an indirect method. In the indirect method, you assume that not Q. That means you assume Q is false. Right? And you prove not P. That means you prove P is also false. In the third method, beta, you assume P is true and Q is false. Right? And then you contradict by showing that P is false when Q is false. This is the contradiction method. Right? So when we need to prove anything, जब हमें किसी को भी prove करना होता है, all these three methods, they are correct methods. Okay, beta. Now let's talk about the type of reasonings. So there are two type of reasoning that can be given. One is called as deductive reasoning and one is known as inductive reasoning. Let's look at deductive reasoning, beta. Deductive means something which is based on rules of logic. But inductive is something which is based on some proofs. जैसे for example, some empirical results. ठीक है? तो deductive कुछ ऐसा हो गया. जैसे for example, मैं बोलूं if m is odd, then 2m is even. I can prove this. But inductive is like this. Inductive is like this, that if price has been increasing in the economy since 2008 to 2013 या 15, तो 2016 में भी price increase होगा. There is no proof for it, right? I cannot prove that price will increase, but I am just looking at the data and telling कि अच्छा पिछले 6 साल से 7 साल से price increase हुआ है ना, तो इस साल भी increase होगा. Similarly, if someone goes ahead and tells you that the sum of angles of triangle is 180 degree, there is no proof for it. आप इसे proof नहीं कर सकते हो. Just that we know that the sum of angle of triangle is 180, but there is no proof for this. इसके लिए कोई proof नहीं है. So in that sense, beta, it is inductive reasoning, right? So in inductive reasoning, there is no proof as such, right? But in the deductive reasoning, there is a proof that can be given. I hope that this class is absolutely clear to you. Okay, beta, thank you.